Today's video is all about how I help clients, how I help the people that I want to help and who those people are, and what I do and how I build the process to help my clients. It's a relatively consistent one, so I'll share a bit of a journey on that. Now, a few years ago, my wife announced to me that she was pregnant. It was planned and not unexpected, which is always good, but it was quite fear-inducing stroke, very exciting, especially for my wife, really exciting news. But there's all that little sort of element in your mind that thinks everything is going to change. Now, obviously your life is going to change because you're going to have a new human to look after. Your life can be relatively steady. And then all of a sudden you've got this huge change. The way you socialize, the way you interact with your partner, everything really to do with your life just changes. Not necessarily for the worse, although some things can feel like they get a lot worse, but it's just that whole change of circumstances. And now one of those is obviously financially. Children bear a cost, which is always something that you think about, but at the same time you think, oh, it'll be fine. And to a certain degree, that's right. Now, as parenthood starts and you get used to having a child around and you go into your first 2-3 months, obviously life changes completely. The way you approach things is completely different. You're obviously running low on sleep and you've got somebody who's there screaming, crying, smiling, laughing all the time. That person wasn't there at all. It's just a complete change of setup. Now, at that time, that's all you're focusing on. That's all that kind of takes your priorities. That's just looking after that one little human being, the absolute sort of light of your life. It does change everything. And there was, certainly for me, there was that element of, crikey, there's two of us sort of looking after this child. Getting used to the financial side was slightly different. So beforehand, we were socializing quite a lot, going out for dinner, going out for drinks, etc., going on holidays together. Those things are traded for different things because you can't do it with children anymore. So there's less of the eating out and drinking, but there's more buying baby items, baby prams and cots and sleeping bags and food and nappies. And crikey, do you get through some nappies and some wipes? Where do they go? In landfill. That's rank. But those costs trade out, and actually you have more money because you're not spending as much on expensive things like going out and dinners and holidays. But there's a huge financial cost of having a child and supporting that person. Now, those costs, you get used to. That's a mental budget. And actually, after a few months, you get used to those costs pretty quickly. What started to really gnaw away at me was thinking, crikey, we are both able to support Matilda. We both have jobs that pay us enough money that we can live the lifestyle that we want. And that's really important. But what happens if something was to happen to one of us? If one of us was to get seriously ill or even, heaven forbid, pass away? Would we be able to cope? Would we be able to give Matilda and now Rafferty all the care and attention that we wanted to because of the financial side? If it was just one salary, would we be able to do it? What do we need to put in place to make sure that actually all those different things that we're going to be able to provide the best life and the best opportunities for our children? Around this time, I gave myself a bit of confidence, obviously being a financial advisor, because I dealt with a client previously who had actually been through this. They were a successful person. They worked in the city. They had the similar type of lifestyle, did all the things that they wanted to do, whether that was entertaining or going on holidays and all those different bits and pieces. But they had quite a bit of anxiety because they were a one-income household. And the second, the wife was obviously on maternity leave, but wasn't really working anyway. The main client earned enough money that actually the second and the mother didn't have to work. But it created a lot of anxiety. It created a lot of stress for him because if something was to happen to me, then what would be the costs and the negatives for my wife and our family going forward if I'm not here? Have we got enough in place to make sure that they're going to be okay? Now, death is one of those things that most people don't like to think about. It's going to happen, and we don't know when it's going to happen, unfortunately. But actually, I think thinking about the future, planning for the future, but having an eye on the present is so important. So this client came to see me, and we went through what I would generally go through with the client. And a lot of that is not the financial side. It's giving them peace of mind, making sure that they're aware in the sort of gaps and the holes in their not their finances, but the areas that they just didn't know about. So you don't know what you don't know. In terms of the basics, for my clients, I run through a very similar process, regardless of whether that client is extremely wealthy in their 50s and 60s or the complete opposite. The basics, the foundations are near enough always the same. So running through this with the client, running through the framework, they just sighed a sort of breath of relief. And actually, they did say that they have an incredible amount of peace of mind now, mainly because we ticked off all the bits and pieces and highlighted all the bits and pieces that they needed. So whether it was making sure that they had a will in place to make sure that money was distributed how they wanted it to be distributed, not how the courts want it to be distributed, because they're two completely different things potentially. Little things like life insurance, that he had death in cover, but it only covered a certain amount. Generally, and to give a bit of an example, people have life insurance that will be set up when they take out a mortgage. That's encouraged by the mortgage company because they want the mortgage to be paid off should anything happen to the main breadwinner. But actually, there's so many more costs that can be incurred. So, for example, if the main breadwinner passes away, does that mean that the remaining parent has to go back to work or change their job? But if they have to be the sole breadwinner then, the sole provider for their family, are they going to earn enough money? And if it means that they have to work full time, are they going to then think, I can't spend enough time with my children? How do I do drop-offs and pickups at nursery, at school? All these different things that matter. But having enough life cover to cover the mortgage is really important. We don't want to be paying the mortgage, but there's so many more bills to consider. Household bills still continue. All the maintenance and things on the house, whether you've got cars, transport costs, they still continue. And all these things become a burden of one parent as opposed to two. If the husband was to pass away, for example, and the mother was left at home, would she think, actually, do you know what? I need 2 or 3 or 4 months just to think about living, existing, not having to go back to work straight away to pay these bills. Could I give myself a buffer? What about whether my child wants to go to university or have additional education costs? Could they be sorted out as well? So without wanting to ramble on too much, life insurance is often associated with just the cost of your mortgage, but there are a whole host of other things that should be thought about potentially to cover. So a good starting point is actually to think about what those costs might be and then increase the amount of life cover that you've got. Speaking to somebody who's a professional is obviously useful because they will help highlight these costs. Now, I don't even know if I've mentioned this, but I am actually a regulated financial advisor. So I've dealt with many clients in various different situations. And as I mentioned previously, there is a constant kind of framework that I've used. Now, I've honed that over dozens, in fact, hundreds of different clients, all in different situations, but the basics remain the basics. Now, this situation with new parents has arisen a fair few times. It's not actually as common as you may think, because a lot of our tend to be a bit older. There was an interesting stat that I read that only 8% of the UK population took financial advice last year, which means 92% of people aren't taking financial advice. Which got me into thinking why. Now, there's quite a few reasons why I believe, and having spoken to quite a few friends and a whole host of other people, realized that a lot of people don't think that a financial advisor is suitable for them. And there can be a few reasons for that. They don't think that their financial situation merits a financial advisor. They don't think that they earn enough money, they don't have enough surplus income, or they don't have a big pot of money that they want to do something with. And that covers an awful lot of parents. A second factor, I think people are put off potentially by the cost or the perception of cost of a financial advisor. The sort of rise of sort of DIY investing, that sort of thing becomes very prominent. So they think, why would I pay somebody to tell me what I already think I know? Aligned with the cost is the value. Why would I pay somebody? I don't think I'm going to get enough value for that potential perceived cost of their service. And I think there's also potentially a trust issue. I think people don't know who to trust. People think they're going to be sold something, or the financial advisor is there just to take their money and do something with it. Combining these two sort of areas, i.e. 92% of people not wanting to use financial advice, but knowing my framework and the sort of basics that I can put in place for any client, regardless of the amount of money they earn, their financial situation, family situation. I started to sort of formulate a bit of a framework that lets people know what they need to know. And as I've already said, you don't know what you don't know. A lot of people would assume a financial advisor, what they're going to be talking about, investments, pensions, perhaps. And that's something that we do concentrate a lot of time on and help our clients with. But actually, it's all the stuff before that's the most important. Looking at that person's life, what's important to them, what they want to achieve, what would be the outcomes if a parent got very ill or indeed had a sort of car accident and passed away, something along those lines. And all those scenarios can be run through a framework that I've built for my clients, which ensures that they'll be okay and their family will be okay no matter what. We then move on, making sure we've got all the foundations in place, make sure we've got things like wills and powers of attorney, emergency funds, Also being aware of what people have as assets, what they're doing with their savings at the moment. We're going to look at trying to understand what people's goals are. I think so that's a really good place to start. So short-term goals, medium-term, long-term goals. Everybody has different goals and things they want to achieve, whether it's planning for a holiday next year, moving house, sending their kids to a private school or to university. Retirement is the classic one. Holiday homes. Everybody has different goals and things they want to achieve. They all have different timeframes as well. We also need to look at where their resources are coming from. It's all well and good having the goals, whether they are deeply into the future or in the short term, but actually we need to be able to have the resources to work out whether we can achieve those. And if not, potentially how we can increase our resources to enable us to achieve our goals and objectives. So partly that will be analyzing people's spending, analyzing their expenditure, putting budgets in place. So if you earn X amount per year and you're basically spending all of that and there's nothing to save at the end of the year, is there anything we can do? Is there anything we can really look at and give people a bit of a budgeting sense, a bit of analysis on their expenditure to see actually maybe there is the potential for £200 or £300 a month to be saved and invested either in the short term into some sort of savings or into the long term in some sort of ISA or even pensions. I think humans can be in danger of just living and just taking day by day, month by month, year by year. And you just need to have a plan. You need to know what you're aiming towards, otherwise life can just drift. And we don't want that. So we also need to think about whether there's going to be any financial challenges. For example, when you have a child, they potentially have a parent on parental leave. They might get really good maternity leave or paternity leave money, but they might get none and they might be on statutory. So that might be a sort of financial challenge in the short term. Reviewing your current financial situation, so being aware of your income, where you're spending your money on your expenses, what your assets are, where your house, your long-term debts, your mortgage, just being aware of those really. Writing it all down can sometimes make you aware of things that you didn't really think about. Trying to reduce down things like short-term debt, credit cards, whereby actually the cost is quite a lot. People can be concerned with saving or buying stocks and shares or missing out on this investment or Bitcoin when actually they've still got £5,000 or £10,000 on their credit card, which they're paying a fortune on. If they concentrate on getting rid of that or reducing that down, then we can look at what the opportunities to grow your money are. As we already mentioned, making sure we've got the right insurances. So it's not just life insurance, there's critical illness and income protection that can all cover various bases, whether you're to get seriously ill or not be able to work for whatever reason. We can put those protections in place and people can think that might not happen to me. But actually, the chance of getting serious illness are quite high, depending on your age. And although the cover can be quite expensive, could you think of anything worse than being struck down by an illness and then having the absolute worry of not being able to work or having to work because you've got to pay the bills still? Unfortunately, the council or the water company don't much care if you're in sort of financial plight. I'm giving a bit of an outline of the framework, but then we'll start to look at those goals and what we need to put in place and make sure that you're comfortable with where you're spending money, but hopefully looking into the future and how we can make your life better and how we can make you achieve those goals in the medium and long term. Part of that would be investment planning, pension planning, other types of retirement planning, working out how we're going to get to where we want to do. And retirement could seem like an eternity away, but it might not. And actually, you might think, I want to retire at 55. I'm quite happy to working at 75, 80. Whatever that is relevant to you, you want to make sure you've got the resources there or the plan to enable you to do that, whichever way. The point being really is that there's so many different aspects to financial planning other than just speaking to a financial advisor because you have a bit of money that you want to invest or you're looking for the next stock tip. My job is to make sure that you're covering all bases. And if you can't cover every base, then working out which of the bases we do want to cover. That's the most important thing. I have really seen the benefit when somebody has just ticked off all those boxes, that they've got all the foundations in place, that they're aware of where their money is going, that they're doing the regular savings and investing that they need to do to achieve their goals and aspirations, that their pensions are as efficient as they need them to be, that they're growing, that they're not missing a trick and missing out on easy wins, that they're reclaiming the tax relief that they're able to. All those different things is so valuable. For a nominal cost, they should potentially be saving you tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds, whether that's through tax savings or actual further growth over the next 15, 20, 25 years. It is just a no-brainer. I implore people to at least explore. DIYing is absolutely fine. There's plenty of platforms for investing, etc., but you're not going to get the foundational base of ticking all those boxes and just knowing the bits and pieces that you need to know. As I say, I've built this framework, which I believe it's accessible to almost anybody. Of that 92% of people, I'm really targeting my services to people who just don't think that their situation requires a financial advisor. One of those primary people are new and expecting parents. Your life is going to change inordinately financially, and actually taking the stress away, making sure that you're ticking all the boxes that you need to tick, even though they're boxes you don't even know exist at the moment, has become a real priority of mine. And that's who I would like to help this year. So if you know anybody who is in that situation, expecting their first child or had a baby recently or got young children even, so they are all people in their 30s and 40s who generally don't seek financial advice. They don't think that financial advice is for them. They are the people that I want to help. And that's not giving them financial advice. That is giving them this framework that I've built to make their lives more secure and their families' lives more secure. An awful long ramble of a video today, but I just wanted to clarify that, get my message out to the world, and hopefully I can help as many people as I can in 2025. Thanks and have a great day. Cool.